Hey, and welcome to another episode of Tu Tia Bruja. I'm Bex Carlos, your designated Tia Bruja. Before we get into it, I just want to say that the last episode was so well received. Thank you so much to all of the people who have praised the episode, who have shouted me out and helped share it. I really appreciate it. And if it resonated with you, I really hope that you take the time to post a review really on any platform is useful, but especially on Apple Podcasts, if that's where you listen. I just recently put it on Samsung Podcasts. So if you're listening there, write a review there too. So I know people are listening. So obviously, like in the last episode, we talked about the liminal space and we talked about, just how sometimes you don't feel like from one space or the other space. And I wanted to continue that conversation today because the liminal space is not something that is exclusive to Mexican Americans. I think that a lot of different people who like things that maybe aren't common or they feel like they shouldn't like feel that way. I think for a lot of us doing that inner child work and healing the many versions of ourselves that came before this one, it's a constant work. So for today's episode, I'm so excited to have Janae, or Furious Nae, as she's known on TikTok. She creates content that is centered around being a teen in the early 2000s, and she offers her perspective of what it's like to be a Black teenage girl in rock music spaces, which are primarily white spaces and can be very unaccepting. I think that something that's hard is, right, you have these spaces that don't really want you there, and that's like a sense of rejection. But how do we feel when that sense of rejection or ridicule happens from close family? We talk about that a little bit. This episode is just such good medicine. And one thing that I really want you to listen for is we have a conversation about like code switching, even just beyond, spaces that we would code switch, like our family, and how, that kind of becomes like a big part of survival. And I just think of like the best example of doing this, especially when it comes to audio files, is Miss Lane Kim from Gilmore Girls. This is such a good episode. I'm going to stop talking and just let you get into it. Music's such a big part of my life, my identity. And that's what I love about TikTok. I mean, I don't know about you. I just feel like I connect with the people that I'm just like, you're my people on TikTok. And there was a creator's content that really stood out to me because I feel like being someone who existed in a lot of like rock music spaces, I didn't always feel welcomed. And maybe that's my opinion of it. But I'm so glad to have Janae, aka Furious Nae, on the show today. Thank you for being here.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Let's talk about your TikTok because that's the platform that you're really, really blowing up on. What was your first video to go viral and when did creating content really start for you?
I started creating content actually back in 2020, and I was just trying a bunch of different things. I was just kind of posting whatever because I knew no one was really looking at my profile and I just wanted to do it for funsies. And so for the next 2 years, I was just kind of posting whatever. And you can kind of tell in my timeline, I'm like trying to be like a plant mom. And then I'm trying to do like jokes and stuff and skits. And then I think it was like February of this past year. I was driving home and I was listening to Paramore and I was like going crazy in my car, just thrashing around. And I'm like thinking about like all those times with like my mom where she would just be like looking at me like, why? Who is this? Is this my child? And so when I got home from work, I was like, I'm going to do a song to Paramore and this is going to be so funny, not thinking that anyone was going to see this or care about it. And so I did Misery Business, of course, and it just took off like faster than I ever imagined. I'm just like watching it go on my phone, like, wait, what's happening? Who are all these people? And from then on, I was kind of like, I could lean into this. It seems like there's, a lot of people that enjoy this. There are a lot of people, especially people of color, who are commenting, like, I feel seen. And I was like, oh my God, I think I hit a nerve somewhere in the community. And the series was born from there.
The one that really stands out in my mind is the one where it's like she's picking you up from school and she's listening to the song. It's like, I'm bossy. And then it's doing the guitar. It's like so in your bed. It's like, Like, why is this me, but also cringe?
So cringe. And at first I was like, I'm a little embarrassed. But at the same time, I'm like, well, that's what being a teenager is. All of it's embarrassing. All of it's really cringe, you know? And I don't know where that idea came from. I was like, I just want to film at a school and just go for it and see if it resonates with people. And that is a true story. My friend, I do have a friend named Brittany. She did let me borrow her Zune, or I think Zune was just funnier. So I went with that. But she was the person who got me into all of the music from those early 2000s years. Like, she's the one.
That brings a really good question. Are you more of a Zune or an iPod person?
Okay, so I thought about this question just from doing my series, and I always wanted the iPod simply because of the marketing and like the colors, and like I just wanted one because I didn't have one. And then I got a Zune one year, I think for Christmas, and I was like, wait a minute, this interface is way better. I mean, you have way more features, way more options, and I didn't have like a Mac computer in my home. It was definitely like a Windows computer, so it was compatible. And so I'm going to go with Team Zune back then. Obviously, the iPhone is like where I'm going to play all my music, but Zune for sure.
You know what? That's fair. It was sort of the Android iPhone of its day. The marketing's what got me because where were you when Walkie Talkie Man was featured on one of the iPod commercials? There were so many good songs.
There really were, yeah.
Okay, you all got me. And in the end, like they were using a lot of the same music that I was into. So I was like, okay, I'm a sucker for this. I got it. I'm doing a lot of things to fulfill that inner teen because she's pissed. I feel like I've worked through a lot of my kids' shit, but now we're working on the teen. And she wanted one of the big classic ones that could just hold so much stuff. And I'm able to do that now. And I'm like, oh, it's all full circle now. I am the adult I wanted to be.
Yes, I know that feeling so well, especially with the freedom that comes with expressing yourself the way you wanted to when you were a teen. And I think that there are some people who were fully able to dress how they wanted to and act like they wanted to and listen to the music without any type of shame or embarrassment. And then there were people like me who were like very closeted with it. In the environment I grew up in, I just did not feel comfortable expressing myself that way. So this series is very therapeutic for me.
I bet. I bet your inner teen is so happy.
Oh, yeah.
Did you ever feel uncomfortable? Was that sort of an issue why you had to feel more closeted? Were as far as like music and stuff, did you feel like it was uncomfortable or unsafe, or did it just not feel like a space you wanted to be in?
It was definitely a space that I wanted to be in so badly, but it felt like number one, I didn't really know too many people who were like me when I was growing up, especially in middle school. Like it was, you would see a lot of like white kids that were into Korn and Slipknot, and I didn't see any black people that were into that. And maybe they were, and they were closeted just like me, but it didn't feel accepted. It's also very compared to, devil worship in some people's families. And, I just knew I could not bring any of that home. Yeah, it just took a lot of time. High school was a lot better. I went to a really, really big high school. Majority of the kids there were black and then Hispanic. And then I think we had Caucasian kids after that. But yeah, I just felt like there were more kids that were okay expressing themselves. Like we had a good number of black goths. So I was like, it's on. Like, I'm about to get in here.
That's the thing. Like you said, you can feel like you're not really welcome or people aren't going to accept it. J. Allen Cross, who wrote this book called American Brujeria, has this term that he uses that I've just like adopted as part of my normal vocabulary. And it's the liminal space, because you're not necessarily finger quote enough for one and you're not necessarily finger quote enough for the other. Was that like something you ever sort of experienced once you did kind of find yourself in these spaces?
Yeah, yeah. And it definitely extended outward outside of music as well, because I was also an athlete and I played volleyball. So oftentimes I would find myself in a lot of just white spaces and never really feeling like I belonged. And so that was like a constant. So being, amongst my black friends and family and trying to be black enough for them, especially like my cousins in Detroit, like they did not talk like me. And they actually made fun of me a lot for how I spoke. And then you would dip to the other side and you would hang out in these spaces where there aren't a lot of black people, or they're just people who would look at you as if, oh, like I didn't know you were into this type of music, or you shouldn't be listening to this type of music. You should stick to R&B and hip hop, that kind of thing. So I never really felt like I belonged in either circle. And that was really hard. And sometimes I feel like I face that today. And then I have to remind myself I'm a grown ass woman and I can be anywhere I want and feel comfortable with myself, you know?
That doesn't mean it doesn't sting to feel like rejected by
Oh, yeah.
actually, I experienced like cousins making fun of you thing for how you speak that hits. On my mom's side, I'm the only American cousin. So, I got a lot of shit for how I spoke and my accent and not being American enough and not being Mexican enough. And I feel like that's one of those things of the liminal space and not feeling enough is a lot of people experience it. And I feel like there's so much medicine in being able to talk about these things and just being able to like understand.
Yeah, absolutely. Like when I first moved to Texas, one of my first really, really good friends, my best friend to this day, she's Colombian and she moved out to LA from Dallas after high school. And this was like, she went to pretty much an all white high school. So even though she grew up in an environment where her dad mostly spoke Spanish to her and she was fluent in it, she had like a different way of speaking. And so her and I actually, one of the first few conversations we had was just like not feeling like we belonged in our backgrounds. And we both found out that like we both would kind of code switch a little bit when we got around our own people. I don't know if you do that too, but
But yeah.
I just think it's so funny. And I was like, I'm not alone. You also did that too. She's like, oh yeah. Like I had an accent and everything.
It's just funny the way that it's all like survival mode, like, and
Yes.
I think that for me, when I was a teenager, music was in hindsight such a way to self-soothe. Like at times where I just felt so much, I was just like, I can just listen to music and escape it. And it truly was like my sanctuary.
Agreed. I think it's therapy. I think it's medicine. I think it's something that can absolutely heal you from the inside out. And it is definitely my first love.
Yeah, me too. See, I was really fortunate. My first concert was when I was 8 years old. How old were you when you went to your first concert?
So my first concert was actually, I was in fifth grade on a Disney trip with my mom. And she's a teacher. She's retired now, but she used to go on these teacher conventions and they would send them to different major cities around the country. And one year they chose Orlando. So she's like, well, let's make a vacation out of it. We're all going to go. And so she brought me and my brother. And for the teachers, they brought in Mary J. Blige. Like that was my first concert ever. And blown away, as you can imagine, like 90s peak Mary, amazing.
Okay, that's a pretty good concert.
What was your first concert?
The Spice Girls.
Oh, God. I'm so jealous.
Basically, I manifested it. And I think that that's cool because, like, sometimes little kids can manifest things when they really want. And it's so cute that we don't think about it as that, right? Because
Yeah,
I watched the Spice Girls movie. And from the time I watched the Spice Girls movie, I was hooked. I watched that like every day after school or sometimes before school if I was getting ready and for like a year.
same.
I'm a little salty, till this day that Ginger left, but it's fine, whatever.
Oh, we'll never get over it. We'll never get over it.
So I got to see them sans Ginger, but I did get to see them one of the best times I've ever had. And I remember seeing a drag queen for the first time and being like, Daddy, what's that? My dad just looks me straight in the eyeballs and was like, Rebecca, sometimes people are just gay.
And there it is. It's as simple as that.
Truly as simple as that. How simple it could really be to talk to children about, and
Absolutely. That's an incredible response, honestly, because it doesn't really warrant why or how or when. It's some people are just gay and that's it.
that's all there is to it. And I feel like that's why, well, now I'm a queer person. I don't know. I think that we need to give children more space to just be curious and like treat them not necessarily like adults because that can be like, damaging at times too. But, talk to them like they are humans because they're just little humans.
Absolutely. And they're a lot smarter than we think, even at their young age. Like some of them, like they just, like my niece, for example, she is so in tune to what's going on. She is like a major sponge and she just understands the world at like 4 years old. And I'm like, you have been here before. Your spirit, this is not your first time here. Like it's gotta be. Like,
Okay, I love that phrase, like you've been here before, but I'm also like, what a way to tell a child all their serotonin is gone so early in life. That was a really good first concert for you. Was there a particular moment when you were more of a teenager when you started to maybe go to concerts by yourself? It was just really fun, but maybe like in hindsight, you're like, that's a little cringe that it played out that way.
it's interesting because like I have this vague memory of going I'm from Lansing, Michigan, and in Lansing, we have a festival called Common Ground. I'm not really sure if they still do it. I'm sure they do, but they had, I don't know, do you remember the band The Calling?
Yes. Mhm.
So they were coming to Common Ground, and I just remember their hit song coming out. And my mom, she like brought me and my friends and was like, okay, me and your dad are gonna go over here. You go see that band or whatever, and then we'll meet back. And that was like truly probably the first concert that I was like, I want, or like show that I was like, I want to go see them and blah, 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 like, without my parents. And then I would like to say after that, I was also I was a huge NSYNC fan. Never got a chance to see them, and then quickly got overtaken by B2K. Do you know who that they are?
Yeah, of course I do. Yeah.
Yeah, so I went and saw them and Lil Bow Wow in Detroit with like my mom, my best friend, and her mom. And that was like the first show that I like begged to go to. I was like crying and demanding to go and see them. So like my first rock show really didn't happen until I was probably in high school.
Okay.
And that didn't happen. I'm trying to remember like who the biggest person I saw. It was a band called The Audition. I'm not sure if they're still together today, but I loved this band so much. I was convinced like me and the lead singer had seen each other and okay, so we're gonna be together, right? Like we're falling in love. But that was probably like my first rock show. We had tons of like local bands, like one band called I Eat Glue. They were like these high school dudes from like this neighboring town of mine, and everyone was in love with them. They were all hot. They all had something to offer. It was just a crazy time.
I think I saw Avril Lavigne, I remember when I was like 12 or something. And
Oh
then
my God, you're so lucky.
I'm telling you, live music was just something early on. I was like, I need it. And so around like 14, 15, like when I was a freshman in high school, I really started to going to shows, like if not every week, at least a couple of months. I think that's why now I'm like burnt out a little bit because I'm like, oh, who haven't I seen?
I'm telling you, like the comments when people are like, "Oh my God, we need to go to a show together and be in the mosh pit," and I'm like, I am 33. I am not doing any of that. Despite what you may see in my videos, like I have retired that life. I will go to a rock show for sure, but like I'm not in the middle of the pit. I'm not. No, it's a lot.
I got an elbow to the throat. Maybe it was more than a few years back. I would say when I was like 25, 26, I got an elbow to the throat in the pit during a Gogol Bordello show. And after that, no more.
Oh my God. It's that one time you get punched in the face or something like that. And you're like, you know what? I just want to enjoy. I actually want to see the show. Especially after you turn 21, you're like, I'm here to get drunk. Like, I just want to drink my beer. I can't really go in the pit with this. I'm just going to stay in the back and like support my friends and drink.
Something that I think is interesting about like people of color who like rock music or are rockeros, as it's very commonly known, we can like a variety of things, right? Like I don't feel like we exclusively listen to rock music.
Absolutely. Yes.
Oh my God. In my teens, like the early 2000s, yeah, like you had the indie rock scene that was like killing it. Oh, but you also had Daddy Yankee and like Don Omar. And I was just
Oh,
like, I'm sorry. Like y'all can hate this because it's mainstream, but I love this.
I just felt like there was a very particular time in like the early 2000s where like it didn't matter what the genre was. If it was a hit, everyone loved that song. Like Green Day, like they took over my school and you had the black kids like jumping and like throwing shit, like Panic at the Disco, Fall Out Boy. Like it didn't matter what you listened to. It only became a problem, I felt like, when you were playing the stuff outside of the hits and they were like, what is this? Why are we listening to this? You know? But it's like, we shouldn't be surprised. Like, people of color, we like everything. Like, yes, we go hard for, you know, R&B, hip hop, whatever it is, but we like everything else too. It's not any different.
And I don't know. I think that that's like kind of a benefit sometimes of being in the liminal space because you can like so many things. Because I felt whereas there was a lot more nuance with the different types of music, you know, so many marginalized and people of color listen to. I just felt like a lot of my friends who were just white were like, no, I don't like that. That's mainstream. That's gross. That's for posers. It's like, okay, like, sorry, you don't think it's a bop. That's on you. That's not me.
So I feel like people were really trying to like impress someone when they're like, I don't listen to them. Like they're so mainstream. Like it's so lame. And I'm like, all right, well, I'm gonna go have fun. You can go ahead and be salty. That doesn't have anything to do with me.
I'm like, I think being able to like a little bit of everything, just if nothing else, just makes you like a more well-rounded person.
Yeah. And I think that like, yeah, we can all have we're all entitled to like the things that we like and not like them, but I'm very much a I don't yuck someone else's yum kind of attitude. Like I would never, if this is your favorite band in the entire world and I hate them, I'm all I'm gonna offer is, yeah, I don't really listen to them. I'm not gonna shit on them just because you like them. Like, what is that? It doesn't do anything for me. So I want you to be happy. I want everyone to be happy.
And also, like, sometimes the thing I really love is when somebody really loves a band and you've heard most of just like the hits or the singles, and they can be like, no, but listen to this song though. And it can really change your outlook on the band as a whole.
Oh yeah, that's happened to me before quite a few times, especially through this series because I'm like revisiting a lot of bands that I liked or kind of liked and then I'll go through their like discography and I'm like, "Oh my god, I just slept on this band for so long." Like,
And I think we were just lucky to be early 2000s.
oh,
There was so much good stuff coming out. You know, the generations before us were just like MTV or the radio. We had so many different outlets to look to. Like, I don't know if you were an OC girl. Like, I don't know if that was
oh
something.
yeah. Love that show.
The music is what made it.
Yes, that also brought me into a lot of like California rock, I guess if that's what the genre is, but I was like this is so chill. Like I really enjoy like all this music. And now that music was like really hard to play in front of other people. Like I feel like the more harder and like more darker the music is, like people are like, "Ooh, you're dangerous." Like respect. And then you play like, the Kooks or something and people are like, "What is this?" And I'm like, "No, this is great."
Don't you fucking put dirt on the Kooks. Like,
Don't you dare. Yeah.
do you consider yourself to be like a spiritual person or a witch by any means?
I would not consider myself a witch. I don't have anything against witches. I grew up in a very strong Christian household. Somewhat got destroyed in my life around middle school when we found out our pastor was stealing from the church. Surprise, surprise. And it kind of just like broke something inside of me and my belief. And it's not that I don't believe in God anymore, but it made me question everything from that moment on and kind of forced me to decide, okay, what parts of Christianity do I still want to keep within my life? And what parts am I like, okay, that's not right. Like, let's not do that. But I would definitely say I'm spiritual, not religious, as us millennials would like to say. And I definitely believe in God and the universe interchangeably. I believe that there is a higher power within this universe and that we can speak things into existence. And yeah, I don't go to church or anything like that, but I definitely believe in something is greater than us.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's too many things that just are too perfect, too exact.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm with you. I don't know how I feel about the whole God in the sense of Catholicism and all that, but like there's something really powerful about just digging in your family history as much as you can because obviously for a lot of us it's difficult. There's so much we can gain. My, I guess, spiritual practice or like brujeria or witchcraft if you want to call it is just about getting in touch with my ancestors. My biggest thing is we have seen struggles and had tribulations and this and that. So it's like if anybody wants to help us, it's the people that came before us.
Absolutely. Yes.
And as we're healing like our generational traumas and all of these things inside of us, I feel like it makes us stronger, because we're letting go of a lot of things that aren't even ours at this point. It's like it comes from beyond us.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. I feel like looking to the ancestors for answers, for guidance. I mean, I still pray and I don't really try to direct the prayer to anyone specific, but I always love that phrase, the ancestors are always listening and you should really ask for help, ask for guidance because that's why they're there. That's why they look over us. And I totally agree with you on that one.
The thing is, like, the more in touch you get with your ancestors, the more you really start to feel them around you and hear and feel them speaking to you through like other things. So the reason that I was curious if you're, spiritual or, a witch or a bruja or whatever is because as someone who is so big on music, I wonder, are you familiar of divination by music?
I actually don't really know a lot about that.
Okay, so as you can do like divination with like tarot cards, like get messages that you're trying to get. So it's interesting because the term is called canticomancy, but I recently was consulting with someone I know who's like, I guess one of my elders, and she was telling me that the term radiomancy is more commonly used, where I was wondering, well, it's like, does that specifically refer to the device in which the person is getting? And she's like, no. She's like, maybe at one point it did, but at this point, you can just refer to it as a form of like doing divination by music, which comes from hoodoo traditions and a couple of other different traditions. But anyway, what you do is, and there's a couple of different ways you can do it. You can do whatever works best for you. But what I like to do is I like to just sort of ask a question out loud to myself, or just even like think it, like really focus on things. And then after that, I'll put in headphones and listen to music. And sometimes, like when you really start to listen to the patterns of the song, and like I think my iPod's the best for doing it, right? Because it's all on shuffle. So sometimes I'll ask the question and then I'll really start to listen to the songs.
Yeah.
And it's like sometimes it works in a couple of different ways. So sometimes just like the wording in the songs will make me think of a specific thing. We'll be like, ah, that's my answer. Or I'll listen to a song and I'll know it's specifically reminding me of one person or like whatever, because it's like, oh, snaps, there are all these memories I have with this person because of this song. And it's like, damn. It really comes down to like what works best for you, right? And kind of like how good you are at noticing signs. Because the thing is, words are spells, so songs are spells. So sometimes like just having that information, that like wording come to you is just like, oh wow, this helped solve something within me or answer the question that I had. Does that make sense?
No, it absolutely makes sense. It's interesting because I feel like when I listen to music, I'm not sure if this is actually a scientific thing or not, but I feel like people are kind of divided into two different categories when they listen to music. And there are people who listen to the lyrics first, and then there are people who are listening to the instruments and they're listening to the composition and the melody and the chorus and all of that stuff. And I seem to follow into like the latter part of that. Like sometimes I have no idea what a song is even about until I've listened to it for like the 10th time, or I'm trying to like learn the lyrics to it. Oh my god, this song is so good because these lyrics are so deep. And so I find that an interesting like concept that like music is a spell. And I've never really considered that until I saw a TikTok where a guy was like, be careful what you're singing, be careful what you're playing, and that you're singing out loud because you're speaking it into existence. And I'm like, oh my God. I'm thinking about all the songs that I've listened to in the past, screaming at the top of my lungs. And yeah, I guess like the way I've always really treated music was just through healing, and just having the lyrics either come to you and apply to your life in a way that you just feel like no one else understands you. And knowing that there's other people who love this song because they're going through the same thing and they might understand you, or just having a certain melody or a certain tone or key be somewhat healing within you when you're feeling sad or when you're feeling upset. And that's why I was so attached to rock and metal and screamo and punk because, as teenagers, obviously we're very angry people, and it's that drive that really helps us heal sometimes. I would like to look into more of what you're talking about, though, as far as like having that song show you the way, kind of, or you're like, oh my God, I can't believe I didn't notice this before.
It really can be something super powerful.
I feel like most music that I'm attracted to, it's something in the actual instruments that I'm like, this kills me. I mean, you have other bands that will like have like some of the best lyrics, and you're like, I don't really like the song that much, but I love what the message is, what they have to say. And you just appreciate it all for different reasons. And that's why I think it's so subjective. Like people will be like, this song sucks. And I'm like, well, what sucks about it? Are you listening to the drums? Are you listening to the percussion right here in this moment? So I just love those kind of dialogues.
Everyone has a different point of view. At the end of the day, I think that people should just like what they like, be better about not yucking people's yum, especially in the music community. Like, I feel like not as only as someone who really loves music, like I used to be a radio personality, I've just been around so many people who enjoy music. But the thing is that the thing that I kept running into a lot of the time is anytime that you would tell, especially like a lot of cis white dudes, that you like a band or whatever, it's like, oh, name every album. Like, did you know that they had this single that came? And I'm like, no, I didn't, because I just like the song.
Oh my God, you are preaching to the choir right now, especially with the series that I have going on. It kind of feels like a circle jerk of who can outdo who in the comments and who knows more. And have you listened to this? And well, did you know this? And I've like gotten into like to stupid arguments about when a song came out that I Googled just to make sure it was correct. And then have some guy come in and tell me, oh, well, it was this. And I'm like, fact checked that real quick and he apologized and then deleted his comment. But like, yeah, you always get someone who wants to like prove how much they like know more or like I don't know what there is to prove. I'm like, I just like the song. Like I don't see any reason to like get your panties in the bunch. Like relax.
I feel like I became that way a little bit, maybe just because I was starting to feel what was being projected at me. Because I'm an adult woman now. I'm like, I don't fucking care what you think about me liking this song.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm just like, it's music because people, they'll ask me for certain artists that like they'll do like a request and sometimes I'll indulge, especially if it's an artist that I love and I grew up listening to, or sometimes I'll do it just because people love that band or that song. And I'm okay with that, but I'm like, I'm not really going to do any artist that I didn't listen to at all or I don't know at all just because I don't know them. And then I'm going to have to sit here and face a bunch of people who are like, well, now you're a poser. And I'm like, well, I just want to make people happy. I just want to perform.
Yeah. It's like, just let people put on a show if they want. Jeez.
Yeah, like we don't have to look too deeply into why I'm doing this and all the history about the music. It's let's just listen to the song and then swipe.
Yeah, that's literally all it has to be. You don't like it, just move on. Final question.
Yeah.
Have you had a concert lineup that just really, we were like, I have to go to this? That just seemed like your ultimate lineup. If not, what would be your ultimate lineup?
I went to Bonnaroo, I would like to say maybe 2019 or maybe 2018. And there was this lineup, and please forgive me for all of like the artists that I might miss, but like I knew that Paramore, T-Pain, Sheryl Crow, Eminem, Future, and Muse was all in the same day. And I about lost my mind because I was like, I want to see all of these people like that you would have to pay a lot of money to go see individually. And I would say like Muse was probably the best freaking show I've ever seen in my life. And maybe it was just the environment that I was in, but like I feel like they do something different to their speakers that other people are doing. Like you can feel it all the way in your body, like in your bones when they play. And I just felt like that was like one of the best days of my life, just seeing that lineup of different people. And of course, Paramore killed, everyone killed. It was just a fun day. But if I had like a dream lineup, I mean, if I could see Nirvana, I think that I would lose my mind, obviously with Kurt Cobain, but Nirvana would be an insane show to go to for sure.
I feel very sad. I was like 4 years old when Kurt left this planet, so that's not a reality. So I'm right there with you. But just kind of funny because we're kind of on a similar wavelength. I had this thought earlier because I lost one of my ghost iridescent earrings. I'm like, damn, what am I gonna do? So I was like, what if I just put like a guitar earring? Could I say it's the ghost of Kurt Cobain? Would that be in bad taste? Like,
It's a tribute. It's a tribute to him. I don't think there's anything, as long as there's no like negative connotation to it, I think it's perfectly acceptable. I mean, he loved his
he
fans.
really did. Honestly, I think that that's the thing, that he was such a water sign. And it's funny because I've looked at his star chart before and it's just like, oh, poor sweet baby, you didn't have a chance. There was so much Pisces and Cancer and Scorpio energy in there. It's just,
Oh man.
he was just a very mysterious, emotional guy. And I remember recently I was listening to a podcast where they were talking about how something that really impacted him, because obviously like he had some substance abuse issues, but he saw a really young fan when he was playing in Rome, like just shooting up. And he was just like, fuck, like, is that because of me? And, like, I can't even imagine what it must be like to be a role model to so many people, because that happens, right? Like when you're talented and you're in the public eye and like you create content and stuff that people relate to, like unavoidably, people are going to look up to you.
Yeah, and I think that like it's not really something that anyone ever truly thinks about or understands the magnitude of, when all they want to do is play music. They just want to play music and to make a living off of it. And maybe you want to be, cult status, maybe you want to be mainstream status, but I think it's hard when you're like, I just want to do what I love. And now all of a sudden I'm put in this place where I'm a role model and I can't say what I want and I can't really do what I want because it has an effect on people. And I surely don't want, how I would like try to treat all of like my issues the same way for someone else to do it, especially someone younger than me. And so I feel for people in that position because it can't be easy, because all you want to do is just play music and just get that out there.
Yeah. It's like for some people, it's a way of like burying your soul and just saying all the things you wouldn't be able to say. So it's so much pressure. And I feel like we don't talk enough about the fact that when people shoot up to stardom like that, even, I mean, I feel like with TikTok, right? Like the fact that people can go viral and you get so much like attention sort of out of nowhere, like nobody really prepares you for that, like what to feel, what to do, like what's the proper protocol for that. Just as they don't prepare you like how to deal with the fact that you're like, oh,
Yeah.
I'm on top of the world, the internet loves me, and then all of a sudden they don't, like, and it's gone, you know, like
Oh, yeah. I get so nervous about that every day. I'm like, I don't even understand what I want because when I was first doing TikTok, I was like, man, I want this one to blow up. It's so funny. And then if you have one that has like some mild success, you're like, ooh, whoa, 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 whoa. Who are all these people? Like, where are these people? These comments are like crazy right now. Like, I'm scared. I almost want to delete this. Like, I don't like all this attention. It's just, this is too much. So it's like, I'm loving where I'm at right now. I feel like I have a good amount of followers who I would consider, some of them friends, people that I would love to go to shows with. I try to keep it as a positive environment. Just feel bad for when people like blow up overnight and you just suddenly have all of these people watching you who don't really understand your platform or what you're doing. And it can be, I'm sure it's so scary. There's no blueprint for it.
really truly is not. I don't know. I think that like we're all just trying to like figure out this way to survive, like with all of these different things that are so stimulating, and social media takes up so much of our time. So I wanted to share the lineup that I have a lot of regrets. I didn't go. I thought about it a lot, but it was like COVID was still it was like earlier this year.
Yes, I would love to hear yours.
But this is an actual festival that happened that I did not go to. It's called Just Like Heaven Fest. So it was the 2022 lineup. So it was, I'm going to be so frustrated. So Interpool, Modest Mouse, The Shins, MIA, Block Party, Franz Ferdinand, Santi Gold, Cut Copy, The Hut,
Oh my God.
Wolf Parade playing specifically the Apologies to Queen Mary album, Peaches performing the Teaches of fucking Peaches album.
Peaches. I'm sorry.
I know. The Cribs, the Ravenettes, and the lead singer of Block Party also had like a DJ set.
I can't. I would simply pass out. Oh my God. I fucked so heavily with Block Party when I was in college. Like that was my I loved Block Party. That is a sick lineup.
Oh my
Wow.
god. Okay, so that reminds me, I didn't tell you my dirtbag moment.
Oh yes.
Okay, I really do cringe about this now in hindsight because you know it's bad and you fuck up when somebody writes an article about it.
Let's go there.
So, okay, I went with 3 friends and we were teenagers. We were probably like sophomores, juniors in high school. And we got a pretty good spot, like pretty close up to the front. We were in the pit. And the music that Block Party chose as their openers was a little, it just didn't seem like the right fit. And maybe that's my opinion and maybe I'm a little jaded. I don't know, but they had like a group called Smoosh and it was like a girl group. They were like younger and I was like, okay, this is kind of cool. Like they're giving them an opportunity, these young girls, to like open for them. And then it was like this person who had a projector, like one of those projectors that like you would have done in grade school. That would have like been, he had a projector, had a violin that he was like doing all this like kind of very eclectic, like it was an electric violin. He was like screaming in it. And like there was like a whole like scene on this projector as he was playing his music. And we were just doing all these terrible commentary. It's like, that's not a microphone. And just, it wasn't just me. It was a lot of us, but it was so bad that the Riverfront Times had a music journalist there and they proceeded to write this whole article about, the show wasn't so bad, but these fucking asshole kids.
Okay.
I can't remember who found it, sent it to me and was just like, hey, you should probably look at this. And it doesn't exist anymore because I've been looking for it. So I think, just like with stuff and it doesn't exist anymore. But I was like, oh God, like, but I just put it out there.
Oh no.
I know. I mean, luckily, I don't think it exists anymore. But yeah, that was my teenage dirtbag moment. But no, I fuck with Block Party heavy. Even to this day, they still have some like really good fucking songs.
Oh my God. And it's just funny because you said that like the time that you guys were juniors and sophomores, you said?
Yep.
Yeah. It's like, and it's that time you're around all your friends and it's like gang mentality. It's like your friends making fun of them and then you want to join in, and then it's kind of like just for funsies, and then you don't even realize who's around you, who's hearing you, and then unfortunately you have an article, a whole article written about you guys.
It's funny because in hindsight, right? Like I didn't realize it. And I'm like, y'all, are y'all witches? Because they had so many songs that referred to, they have hunting for witches. They have the song Mercury that talks about all the things you should not do during Mercury's retrograde, which is funny. Whenever people are just like, oh, what does that mean? I'm like, listen to the song, listen to the lyrics. You're going to understand.
I had to look them up just now because I was like, what was that album that came out? It was Silent Alarm in 2005. That like I just played it the fuck out. But I just saw that they have a new album release. I had no idea.
That's like a dream interview. If I got to interview the lead singer of Block Party, that'd be so amazing.
I have a question for you, actually. So, as we know, Mercury is in retrograde. They said what, 6 planets right now? Is that correct?
It's 6 planets in total, but yes, the Mercury is the most recent one that retrograded. Yeah.
What advice do you have for all of us during this time? Because I'm scared.
Okay. Well, let me tell you the first thing. It's funny. I feel like ever since my friend told me this, I just keep telling everyone. But this is a Phoenix year. So there are typically years that have like a general vibe. So this year was a Phoenix year. Last year was like a Lion's Gate year. So it's really good for wishing good things you kind of want to like happen and then having the energy to make them come to fruition. This year, we're all collectively going through it.
Great.
But next year's an emerald year. So it's like if you do the work, if you actually learn the lessons that you're supposed to learn, precast, like when we were just like kikiing before, we talked about how like Mercury's retrograde specifically shows you the areas in your life where the foundation is not solid. Because yeah, does technology and everything screw it up a little bit? Sure. But you should also be able to like, oh, hey, like I forgot to do this. Let me do this. Let me, whatever. Like before we started, I'd realized, oh crap, I don't think I sent her the link. Like, let me do that, and being able to just as soon as you realize that something, is within your control to fix, like taking the opportunity to do it. Definitely that. Everyone gets really scared, honestly, about how they have to be very cautious. And it's like, yeah, you should be a little bit more aware. Like, definitely think, before you send that spicy text if you're feeling a certain way, because everything's a little like delayed or misconstrued.
Okay.
Honestly, the biggest thing I can just tell everyone, especially right now with all of the different planets in retrograde, because it's not just Mercury, I believe it's Neptune, Pluto, Uranus, and Saturn. I can't remember if that's 5. I don't know if I listed all of them. Point is like there's a lot of different things happening. So it's like you're becoming aware of a lot of things maybe you weren't aware of. Pluto kind of deals with like the deaths and things that need to end. So you might be seeing a lot of that right now. Really right now until all of the planets chill
When
out.
does that happen?
So Mercury probably has like another week, week and a half. And that one I feel like we feel the most intensely because it's the closest one to us. Other ones we feel less intensely. Like we still feel it,
Okay.
but it's more so, okay, this is something that maybe has been on the back burner and I know that I've been needing to change. Whereas like Mercury is a lot more, it seems a little bit more intense. It seems like it's more urgent, so to speak. Everyone, have a little bit of grace with yourselves, have patience. Don't feel like you, especially if you're someone who feels like you always have to answer people like right away.
That's me.
Me too. I think it's an anxiety thing. Be okay with taking yourself out of the conversation in the way of saying like, "Hey, I'm not really in a space right now to like give you an answer, or can I just think about it and get back to you?" Because I think creating those boundaries around like things you need to think about and stuff, that's super important too. I am of the school of thought of like and everyone's intuition's a little bit different, but I specifically am based on like feeling. So it's like if it feels uncomfortable to me, if it feels weird, if I don't like it, I'm like, I'm not going to do it. So maybe, if that's not something that you do, think about how does this feel to me? And then proceeding from there.
I love that advice that you said to like just let things just chill for a minute before you decide to answer, because I have never regretted taking time to think things through before responding, especially to different opportunities. Like I definitely took some time to think about doing this podcast because I've never done one before. And this is like a really, great opportunity to get to know you. And I want to make sure that I present myself correctly. And after a few days, I'm like, I am so sure about this. And I'm actually really excited about this, instead of just saying, no, I'm scared, I don't want to do it, and just shutting it down. Like taking that time is, I've never regretted just waiting, really mulling it over, because we are such a reactive society. Like there has to be an answer, like that. And I love that. I love that advice.
Honestly, I am not above taking my own advice. And that's one of those things that took the longest for me to realize. I don't know. In a lot of my social interactions, I just felt like this all would have been a lot better. Like, it probably wouldn't have played out this way if I would have just been like, let's take some time to think about this. Like, we are coming from a place of emotion, and that's something too, is like, I am very ruled by my emotions. So
Oh, yeah.
that's why, like, at this point, I'm like, listen, I also just, I don't know. I just turned 32, like, and so that means my Saturn's return is over. So it's like a lot of different habits and cycles and stuff that kept proceeding, like, on and on and on and on, have started to end. And I real talk feel like, that gif of Marge Simpson where she like covers her eyes and turns, she's like, it's like cringe.
Yeah.
That's how I feel like looking back at a lot of like things that have happened in my life. It's like, oh, that didn't have to play out that way.
All of my 20s, every single year was cringe. Just let's forget about it. Move into your 30s.
Listen, I just think that before your 30s, it's all like the first pancake, like, how like the first one always there comes out a little burnt or just a little like gooey in the middle. It's like that. We're just trying to see what works. The second pancake will be better.
Absolutely. Your 30s is supposed to be some of your best years, is what I've been told. And they're not wrong. The first 3 years of my 30s have been absolutely fantastic. So I'm excited for you as well.
I'm having a great time. Like, 32 has been good. I think like with any decade of your life, you have ups and downs. You're still like figuring out so many things about yourself, but I'm just so much more concrete in who I am, like unshakable in that way. And I'm just like,
Yes.
this is an amazing feeling.
It's great to feel confident in who you are and what you want to do. Like, I'm thinking about like my platform and what I've done so far, and I'm like, I could not have done this 10 years ago. I could not have done this in my 20s because I was just so insecure and so scared of what people thought of me. And then the closer I got to my 30s and just establishing who I am, I don't care what people have to say about me to a certain extent, but it's definitely not.
No, I'm with you. And honestly, I agree. Like, I think I love this phrase that is, be who you needed when you were younger.
Woo, yes.
Where would we all be if we would have had, someone who really just looked like us or thought like us, or, really just made us feel seen? Like, there is such powerful medicine in being seen.
Absolutely. That's what really powered me to keep doing this series, because, I did get negative comments and I'm like, wow, I feel like this could break me if I keep looking into this. But then you get these comments that are like, I wish I knew you when I was younger. I wish I had you. I wish I had me when I was younger. I wish I was looking at someone who just didn't give a fuck what music they play. Like, I also wish I had that person. So I love that you said that.
The things we need in life finally come when we need them. So
Mm,
it's like,
yeah.
listen, we're at a point, we've done the work on ourselves. So it's like, we're now putting that into the universe.
Absolutely. We're only here for a short time. Like, you might as well just go for what you want, because it'll be over, at some point. And you want to be able to look back and say, I went for it. I wasn't scared at all, because being brave in this life it's a huge thing to be. And I don't know, I think that miracles and opportunities happen when you start to be more brave and more comfortable in who you are, and the doors open up.
Yeah, fortune favors the bold. Oh my gosh, Nate, this has been such like a powerful like conversation, such great medicine. I feel for a lot of us that just felt unseen, or just like we didn't necessarily feel like we should be in a space, because babes, we belong wherever the fuck we want to be.
Hell yeah. I loved talking to you. I feel like we could talk all night long. I definitely want to get some more information about, divination and all that stuff.
Yeah, I will definitely share that with you, because I'm always trying to convert more witches out here. Like, the more empowered we are, the better we can be. But, for people who love what you're creating, they love everything you've said, where can I send them to support, follow, and keep up with you?
At Furious Nae on TikTok and Instagram. I'm kind of on Twitter, not really. I'm more of a lurker because Twitter is scary to me. And then, if I could be so bold, I also just started my Fury hero line. It's called Hell Hath No Fury Collective. It's for furious women, women who don't like to be told what to do, women who just don't give a fuck. And they're t-shirts and crew necks with curse words on them that are empowering for us women. And 5% of each sale is going to be donated to women-powered organizations and nonprofits here in Austin, Texas. And you're also supporting a local screen printing company. So if you're interested, I'm doing pre-orders at shopfuriousnae.com.
Ooh, okay. I will include that in the show notes, because I love that. We love giving back. We love
Hell
helping our
yeah.
community. You know what? And maybe we'll talk about some cool collaboration efforts for the future.
I would
But
love that, honestly. This was so much fun.
thanks again for listening. Please go and follow Furious Nae. She's so funny. She's down to earth, creates amazing content, and you can find all the places to follow her in the show notes, including TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter. I think a lot about the people who along the way in our life journeys like got us to the point that we're at now. For me, it was a lot of nurturing and meaningful friendships, mentors and role models that gave me a space to be heard, and finding methods of self-soothing, right? So back then for me, it was music. Recently the world got a little less bright, in my opinion, because when I was a teen, I was especially thankful to the parents of friends who at times had more grace and patience with not just myself, but a lot of my friends at the time. In hindsight, I think a lot of us just needed more kindness. And Scott was a real one. He nurtured our music interests and he was so kind to a bunch of teen, punk, know it all kids. He was a cool cat that you could just tell had lived enough of a life that he had learned to document it by photographing as many of those moments to keep the memory alive, I'm so sad for his family because loss is hard and, I can't imagine what they're going through right now. But I hope that they realize that he was such an amazing person and the impact that he made to not only his family, but so many people who crossed paths with him along the way. And that doesn't make the hurt any better. But there's a feeling of comfort when you just know that your family member helped make an impact on so many people. So, if nothing else, I offer them that comfort that I would not be where I am today if it wasn't for him and a lot of other parents like him. I'm very grateful, and I hope one day I can make the sort of impact he made on me to someone else. Thank you again for listening. I'm really thankful that I'm creating content that is resonating with a lot of you. And please remember that I'm always open to collaborating and open for pitches. So if you have a specific topic or idea that you're like, I would love to talk to you about this, or I would love for you to cover this, please do not hesitate to reach out. You can just send me like a DM on social media. You can find me everywhere at Tutia Bruja. I don't do the accent because social media is very limiting sometimes, but you can find me on TikTok, Instagram, or on Twitter. Additionally, my personal, so when I'm not doing stuff for the podcast, is Bexby Casting, and I look forward to the conversations we're going to have in the near future. You know what? I think there's only 3 episodes left of this season, but we shall see. I don't know. I might just continue this season because it's almost October, and I love Halloween, baby, so we'll see how it goes. Either way, it's wrapping up pretty soon. Thank you for being with me on this journey so far, and I look forward to our next conversation. Bye.
Yeah.